which includes a local rapper rapping a song about Jasmine Crockett. Um, One of the things that kills me about we've seen this before, even once at least that I recall on the Kamala Harris campaign, is the mailing it in some of these individuals do. And this rapper, he comes to the podium. It's just the visuals are awkward. He comes to the podium as part of the big launch for Jasmine Crockett's U.S. Senate campaign. And he is, it's straight out of The Office. There is a rap song playing that he is attempting to sing along to, but I think maybe change the words. Um, and he's trying to read the lyrics, or rap the lyrics, I should say, off his cell phone. So he's sitting there, excuse me, looking at his cell phone, and he gets lost at one point, and so you can hear sort of the background lyrics going, and he's trying to catch up on his phone. It in some ways, I suppose, is the perfect illustration of Jasmine Crockett. And then, of course, the crowd, you can't really hear it in the audio, at the end they wildly applaud as if it was a fantastic success, which really is a perfect, once again, just demonstration of the people that Jasmine Crockett surrounds herself with, and the Democrats, really. Every moment of failure, be it big or small, you celebrate as if it is wonderful. One of my favorite repeating moments of the Hillary Clinton presidential campaign was when she would have coughing fits and they would applaud her. What is wrong? What is going on here? What on earth is going on in this world? Or Joe Biden after that disastrous debate, and Jill Biden stood on stage and was telling Joe, and you answered all their questions. You did it. You knew what they were saying, and you had all sorts of facts to give them, and everyone's applauding. Like, you're applauding this guy because he talked. And he, quote, answered the questions. This is a presidential debate. Gavin Newsom, at this point, still considered the best hope for the Democrats in terms of a presidential candidate. And he has, in recent history, presided over the single greatest running into the ground of any state in this country. There are a lot of states that are complete failures. Illinois, an example of one, but California, we were told anyhow, was on its way to this massive surplus, and instead it has just been so driven into the ground. And it has been by policies for some time, but Gavin Newsom has said, hold my Chardonnay, in terms of running the place into the ground, and just doubled down to the point that we see the increased political refugees that are able to afford to get out, fleeing the state. And this is the guy, of all of the states out there, the one that has the greatest number of people fleeing because the quality of life has been so diminished under the leadership there under Gavin Newsom, and that is considered the front runner for Democrats right now. That's their go-to guy. Jasmine Crockett. She'll probably win the primary because she is an idiot. And Democrats, it's almost this psychological condition, like an angry child has, to be defiant for the sake of defiance. And they will have numerous options, but the one that they sense Republicans hate the most is the one they'll choose, even if the hatred or the mockery or the dismay is because the candidate herself is a complete unhinged idiot. It doesn't matter what other options they have. They will pick the one that makes them feel the most defiant. It's not an isolated example. Up in Maine, we've talked about the Democrat candidate for the U.S. Senate there, a guy that got an actual Nazi tattoo. He's done numerous things and said numerous things that are unhinged and crazy, including doubling down on what he says is his actual curiosity as to why black people don't tip. I mean, all of the things that if he, of course, were a Republican, would label him as a racist that has, quote, no place in our society. But because he's a Democrat, he openly doesn't understand why black people don't tip in his mind. He acknowledged that he got a Nazi tattoo, but he's like, oh, I was drunk. What are you going to do? The Democrats up there have another option. It's the current governor who is also running as a Democrat in the primary for the U.S. Senate. Within 2 weeks of the news coming out about the Nazi tattoo and it was highlighting his comments about black people, his popularity amongst Democrats skyrocketed. Democrats have become the spoiled, angry child, that the moment that the child gets a whiff of what the parents expect, they do the opposite. They scream and yell in church. They pitch a fit while in the checkout line at the grocery store. Like whatever it is, the parent, to the point the parents like, just don't tell him to do this because he's going to do the opposite. There's something wrong with him. He's defiant. And that is how when the Democrats vote. And I've yet to hear any other explanation. Now, the primary or general election, it's understandable, right? If you're a Democrat, no matter who the Republican is, you're going to vote for the Democrat, even if they're insane. But what they continue to demonstrate is when they have a buffet of options, they get to choose which Democrat is going to be in the general election. They increasingly pick the Looney Tune, the nut job, the overt anti-Semite. Look at Mamdani in New York. Unapologetically anti-Semitic. Oh, yeah. That guy. I think there's a very good chance, and I fully mean this, if you could go back and do a separate timeline just to see how things pan out. If Republicans had not spent the months leading up to that primary election talking about how bad Mamdani is, talking about his anti-Semitism, talking about his anti-police rhetoric and his disastrous plans for the city and what an embarrassment it would be for the United States of America and the people of New York to elect some rich, spoiled child who lived a privileged life that is so left-wing and anti-Semitic. And if Republicans had not said a word about it, I don't know that he would be the mayor-elect. If instead Republicans had put their focus all on Cuomo and ignored Mamdani and went on and on about Cuomo, he's awful, he's crazy, he's horrible, I think that Democrats would have flocked to have voted for him just because of that instinct to be defiant. Completely detached from reason, completely detached from logic, reality, just emotional reactions. I was watching this. One of these, guys that go out and ask left-winger questions in order to allow the left-winger to demonstrate the point through the answer. And it was some chick, and he was asking her, I don't know if it was immigration or what, but she clearly did not know what she was talking about. So he asked a question to demonstrate that. Well, what about this, though? To which she hummed and hawed around. And then finally acknowledged. She said, I mean, I don't really, I can't give you a lot of facts. I don't know stuff about facts. But if you want, I can give you my opinion on stuff. But boy, if that is not the perfect summation of the left, in particular in this country today. I can't give you a lot of facts. I don't know stuff about facts, but I can give you my opinion. The great follow-up question would have, of course, been, your opinion based on what? Yesterday we talked about the fact that so transparently, not deliberately transparently, but nonetheless transparent, the city using our tax dollars to figure out how it is to market to the voters in Springfield a way that will allow them to coax you into voting for that increase in the hotel tax. You know, this is something they wanted for the convention center, went down. They were very surprised by it. I was as well. I think a lot of people were. It went down, and so they are out there on this effort, or embarking on this effort, to essentially get you to tell them what you want to hear in order for you to give them what they want. And there was a survey that had, well, it still exists, I think until the 19th of December, where they're gathering information from you in order to figure out how best to market to you. And Sarah went through yesterday and printed off some of the pages, so I thought I'd share some of the questions so you can just see how laughably manipulative this is. Right now, the latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 56. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 41. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 55.
Have you seen the new name for the fishermen? They're no longer fishermen as of yesterday.
Oh no, I haven't.
The narco terrorists. Democrats keep at every day they try to come up with a softer, more lovable name for the narco terrorist.
I'm ready for it.
It is shipwrecked survivors.
What?
I've seen it yesterday. Some Democrat on Morning Joe, and I think Adam Schiff also referred to them as shipwrecked survivors. Just like, people from the Titanic.
No.
It's the same thing.
No.
Oh, sure. Yeah, absolutely. I really wish we could go
How can
back.
you be shipwrecked if they're going like I don't know how fast, but they're going.
The poor shipwrecked survivors. Trump is just he's just got us out there patrolling the seas looking for people that are desperate for help because they're shipwrecked and they survived it, and we're like, you know what, this will be a great way to practice. Just go around and find people that are desperate to be saved. Maybe they became shipwrecked on a desert island somewhere, or they're stuck out in some reef. And what better way to target practice than to do that? I really wish we could again take these people, just merge timelines, and if Democrats back after September 11th, 2001. Were the Democrats from today, what names they would have come up with for the hijackers. Because, some of them would have, depending on what area of the country they represent, some of them would have acted sympathetic to the victims and to the country. But it's a much different country today. Even Ilhan Omar has downplayed September 11th as, some people just did something. America's always whining about just this thing that happened, and that attempt to downplay it. And the Democrat Party today, on September 11th of 2001, would have certainly figured out some way to turn the hijackers into the victims and given them, they would not have been called hijackers. I know that. If narco terrorists are renamed shipwrecked survivors, then we certainly would not have collectively agreed upon hijackers for the 9/11 hijackers. These people are lunatics. Lunatics. The city of Springfield attempted to get yet another tax increase back in November in the name of tourism, and this was going to be jacking up the taxes even higher on stays at hotels and Airbnbs. And I think that they expressed shock that it did not pass. This was going to go to a convention center, and it did not pass. And it didn't pass by a pretty decent margin. I mean, it was low voter turnout, and arguably that can make a difference, but ultimately it didn't pass. And generally, low voter turnout actually helps situations like this, despite what some expert from Drury University told the news leader at the time. I noted the city will they will not take this as, okay, the people spoke and we listened. They will try and regroup and figure out how it is to get this tax accomplished. And so that task is underway. They have launched a site, what's on the city site, a survey to get your thoughts on all of this. And I want to read to you some of this survey, and you will understand all of this is market research so that they can figure out what it is that you want to hear in order to give them what they want. I mean, they might as well just have an essay form and say, what do you want us to tell you? Like, what can we say to you to make you go, okay, what promises can we make? What wonderful scenarios can we tell you will happen that will make you say, yes, increase taxes again in the city of Springfield. And we'll tell you whatever you want to hear, but we got to know what it is. So going through the survey, here's one of the questions is, what changes or conditions would make you more likely to support a revised convention and event center? And you can select up to 3. They give you the options: a smaller and more affordable project, more transparency and public input, clear explanation of community benefits, stronger downtown revitalization impact, assurances that visitor taxes, not local taxes, fund the project. More, I like assurances, not guarantee, but just will assure you. More partnerships with schools, nonprofits, and businesses, more youth sports or family-friendly features, a sunset provision, or none of these. And so then and you can also go through, and it's like, what about adding a defined sunset to the tax? And there's a smiley face that you can click on to show that you are more likely to give them what they want. There's just a standard little orange face without smiley, or it's just a straight line horizontal, no change, or there's a sad red face if you would be less likely to support. Announcing specific location for the center, same options, more likely, no change, or less likely. Releasing preliminary design or conceptual renderings. That usually works pretty well. If it looks really cool, if you can give some sort of, just giving some free tips here, because they're going to use your tax dollars to try to get this done anyway. If you can come up with something that looks really awesome and really cool, like, oh man, that would look awesome. That does help. Showing examples of similar centers in comparable cities and their economic job impacts. All the positives, of course. Reducing the scope or total cost of the project. Explaining what local public projects could benefit from the increased visitor tax revenue. Another question that they have is, how important are the following potential benefits in determining your support for a future events or convention center? Tax generation to support community needs like roadway improvements, support services, job creation and local business growth, more entertainment and family-friendly events, keeping visitors spending in spring, and it goes down the list of all the things that potentially will be part of their marketing plan. Which potential community benefits, if proven, would matter most to you? Select up to 3. Stronger economy, more jobs, more tourism and visitor spending, better ability to host large events, revitalization of downtown, improved community amenities for you, the resident, reduction of burden on local taxpayers through visitor-generated revenue. Which of the following funding approaches would you prefer for a future project? Funded privately through a tourism tax, quote, or primarily rather, through a tourism tax, in parentheses, paid by visitors. A combination of tourism tax and private philanthropic dollars. A scaled-down project requiring less total funding, no project should be funded, and other local taxes. Which types of event would you be most interested in? Oh, select all that apply. Concerts and entertainment, cultural festivals, graduation ceremonies, local conferences or training, youth sport tournaments, trade shows and expos, community banquets or fundraisers, other or none I do not expect to attend. For each of the statement, please indicate whether you strongly agree, somewhat disagree, or disagree. A new center would bring more visitors to Springfield, increasing spending at local restaurants, hotels, shops, and attractions. A center would create new jobs, construction jobs in the short term, and hospitality, retail, and service jobs long term. More events downtown would increase foot traffic, strengthen local businesses, and support a more vibrant, active, and safe city center. A convention and event center would serve residents by hosting graduations, festivals, community gatherings, and youth events, not just conventions. If the city were to revisit the issue in the future, which approach would you prefer? Propose a revised plan with significant changes. Propose the same plan with improved communication and education. Pause and gather more information first. And then the option, do not bring this issue back up. Now, is this partial? Were there some other...
Yeah, there was a couple of other questions
it gives
as
you an
well.
idea.
But yeah, I mean, it just kept going and going and going. And I think I told you halfway through, I'm like, man, I think that they're going to keep making me answer all these questions until I'm finally break and say, yeah, sure, go ahead.
Now, I suppose it's somewhat impossible to answer this in a vacuum, but just as unbiased as you can possibly be, did you get the impression that they sort of kind of wanted you to support the convention
Yes.
center?
100%. Yes.
It's just ever so subtle, isn't it? All right, so just a few comments on this here. And by the way, I think this is completely unethical. 100% unethical. It's probably legal, but I'll explain why in just a couple of moments. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. I'm Nick Reed. I got a traffic update here. I did want to note regarding the Democrats' new terminology of the narco terrorists as shipwrecked survivors. From the KSGF app, Morning Nick and Sarah. So Jessica Tarlov, she's a Democrat who is often on the Five. She's a Fox News contributor. Posted about this last week. Dean Cain shut her down in a reply, but to be fair, those ships were wrecked. Yeah, you could really lean into that, like, dang, right, they're wrecked. We wrecked them real good. Shipwrecked survivors. What next? I'm not sure what they could come up with next, because at this point, these are just individuals out there fishing, trying to feed their families. For a better life, of course. And then Pete Segheth, in some sort of drunken rage, apparently, was personally handling the strikes and was like, get that one. And then when two of the individuals survived and they were desperately trying to grab their tackle boxes and whatever fish they had caught so that they could feed their families, Hegseth was like, finish them in Mortal Kombat style, and then just, woke up the next morning with beer cans everywhere, half empty, and looked up and just saw that they had been obliterated. And that apparently is what is going on. At least that's what we are supposed to imagine. So that is today. Can't wait for tomorrow from the Democrats.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 56. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 41. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 55.
Underway, it is an opportunity for you to take tremendous advantage of Happy Honda Days happening now. Pinnager family all in on this one. Pinnager Honda, South Campbell. No payments, 90 days on new vehicles. That's right, March of next year. Whether it is the 25 Honda Pilot, 25 Honda Ridgeline, or the 25 Accord with all sorts of incredible sales credits. Ridgeline, for example, $3,000 sales credit with rates as low as 0.99%. There's incredible leasing deals on 26 models. So looking forward, the Honda HR-V lease $359 a month, and the 26 Honda CR-V lease $199 a month. The monthly payments there based on 10,000 miles leased for 39 months. As you know, there's all sorts of stipulations when it comes to leases. And so a lot of great opportunities there, and you may be thinking, well, we were going to wait until after the first of the year to do that. Well, you think of it like, oh, we're going to wait until February. Well, February, and then if your first payment's due to, in February, March, I mean, right now you can do this deal and on some of these new vehicles at Pinnager Honda not have a first payment till March. It's just something to consider, just for you to keep in mind there. Great time. Take advantage of those incredible deals, incredible vehicles. Pinnager Honda, South Campbell, just south of Walnut Lawn. So, City of Springfield is embarking on information collecting so that they know what you want to hear in order to give them another tax increase. They asked for one in November so that the convention center could be built, and the people said no. And so now they have a survey. They're like, well, we're just kind of wanting to get the temperature, but it's all very clearly, tell us what would make you say yes. I think that this is unethical, and I don't know that you could make it illegal because of eye of the beholder situations. Now, you aren't allowed legally to use taxpayer dollars for campaigning purposes. You can't do that. That's why you can't shoot campaign ads or do any sort of campaigning on government property because it's taxpayer property. And the idea behind that is people running for office or running for re-election, the taxpayers should not be subsidizing that. The taxpayers should not, against their will, perhaps, have their dollars going to enhance or assist somebody running for office. All of that is to be voluntary. So if you want some of your dollars to go to a campaign, you can make those donations. Even when it comes to the IRS, and you want to donate $1 to the presidential fund so that this can, all of that. This is clearly using tax dollars for the purposes of how to that's why this, I'm sure it's not illegal, and I don't even know that it could be made illegal, and I don't know that it should be. But I think it's certainly unethical to use your tax dollars to figure out how best to manipulate you into voting to raise taxes. That's exactly what this is about. I think it's hilarious that apparently an option for the city that does not exist is just not doing this. Like, that is not an option. And listen, I'm not saying that there aren't valid reasons for having a convention center. I think that there are smart people that can even argue that tax dollars should potentially go to. That's not necessarily my argument, but I don't think it's the worst thing in the world. Now, I do reject this notion, as I always have, that when government says this is something that we need and we need tax dollars for it, that there's only one place that they can manage to even consider finding those tax dollars, and it's in your bank account, not theirs. In other words, they can't reprioritize things. That's never, ever, ever an option. Like for you, if you are wanting to take on an additional expense, you look at your budget and you're like, okay, well, that's going to be an extra $600 a month. From where do we take that? How do we shift our budget around given that we have this set amount of revenue coming in? That for them is never an option. It's always go back to you and tell you we need more money from you. I do reject that. But they're clearly not interested in whether or not you want or do not want a convention center, because I do think that is a separate question from the tax. You can think it's a great idea, but vote against the tax increase for reasons that I just explained. They seem, however, completely uninterested in knowing why it is that you might be against it. They don't seem interested in figuring out if this is a priority for the citizens. All they seem interested in is, how can we get you to vote for this? And this will all be whatever information they collect from the people who participate in this survey is information that will show up in campaign ads supporting this. Mark my words. Now, they may be campaign ads that are paid for by other entities that are provided this information by the city. They will turn this over and say, hey, here's what we found. People really like the idea. If you tell them that it's going to be used for this, that really gets some thumbs up. And if you tell them this over here and promise them this, these are the things that they want to hear. All that will be used to campaign you. And I just think it's unethical to use your tax dollars in order to figure out how it is to then convince you to give them more of your tax dollars. Instead of seemingly exploring the notion that maybe people just either don't want this or they don't feel that this is the proper way to pay for it. Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Sarah Myers.
Thank you. Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. They're awesome. That's all I got to say about them.
All right.
Sarah's endorsements tab. No, I'm just kidding. No, we've actually got some really nice
true,
weather.
though.
It is true. I would never lie about it. But we have some really nice weather over the next couple of days. So if you have noticed some issues with your heat, whether it's making some odd noises, or maybe it just feels a little bit cooler in your house, or maybe you've noticed that your utility bill's a little bit higher than it normally is, now is the time to address those issues before the cold really creeps in. And I want to recommend my go-to guys, Russell and his team over at Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. They do residential and commercial. They do everything from just a simple service repair. They can do maintenance, your inspections, or maybe if it's the year to upgrade to a brand new unit, the Foreman team, they have got you covered. And then, of course, if something does pop up during those, kind of the after hours, they do have a 24/7 emergency service line as well. For all of your HVAC needs, remember Foreman Mechanical Heating and Air. You can find all of the contact information for Russell and his team under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
I'm going to divert here from what I had planned on talking about, though I still will because of something that Sarah had mentioned during the break, and I just got to address it. And it was a posting that I know we're going to see more of from people because it is the Christmas season and because of the enforcement of our laws regarding immigration and not rewarding people who want to come into the country illegally. And that is this fantasy storyline that Jesus was an immigrant. Jesus was an illegal immigrant. Mary and Joseph, they were homeless. All of the things that the left holds up as virtuous, these are the things that Jesus and Mary and Joseph were. This is not true, and there shouldn't be any confusion over this. It is, I understand when people on the left post this sort of stuff because they don't know historically information about Christ, the birth of Christ, the traveling. They know nothing of it. They don't know. They've never taken the time to learn the history of these things. But I find it, frankly, just a little embarrassing when people who go to church post this stuff. Do you not pay attention? I mean, it's like, this is pretty basic stuff. The traveling was not because of immigration status. It was because of the required census that was called. The Roman Empire, Augustus. Like, we're doing a census, everyone. And that required people to go back to their hometowns. And for Joseph, a descendant of David, that meant traveling quite a distance. Hence the traveling. Not only were they not illegal immigrants, this was government-required migration for the purposes of the census. This is not a secret. This is all, it's written down. This is history. This is why it's just crazy to me. People actually go to church and post this stuff. Like, what are you doing in church when they're talking about this stuff? And while I understand every Sunday or however often you attend, this may not be the focus of a lesson, but surely around Christmas time it gets mentioned. Or how about this? Look it up. It's not a secret. The homelessness. Even if you were not, well, Jesus, he was homeless. Even if you've never cracked open a Bible or gone to church, surely you've heard this story and the phrase, no room in the inn. The hotels were booked. The Airbnbs, the Verbos, they were all booked. This wasn't a situation like, illegal immigrants just looking for a better life, and they had no money whatsoever, and so they were, staying wherever they could, and it happened to be a barn. There was no room in they wanted to. They went, and they're like, guess what? We're all booked up, but if you want out back. It's like you're going to a town, met Taylor Swift concert, and they're like, sorry, we're all sold out, but we got a garden shed out back. If you want to stay there, we'll let you. Give us a little money on the side. That's what happened. This is what's so crazy, and what an unfortunate, sad reflection of our society and the willingness to be so ignorant, not just to be ignorant about things in which the information is so readily available, but untethered to any sort of desire to know what you're talking about while you are out there talking about it. I go back, I should go find that audio of that internet guy. I don't even know who he was, and interviewing lefties and asking this left-wing gal about some particular issue. And of course, she had when it came to the facts, no idea. And she fully acknowledged. She's like, well, I don't really know much when it comes to facts. Don't ask me fact stuff, but I can give you my opinion on things. Like, I don't need to know the truth. I don't need to know the facts. I'm an authority. I have a Facebook page. I have social media. So I'm going to put out here this reminder, that Jesus was an illegal immigrant who was homeless. Nope, 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 and nope. The whole manger scene, that was not an ICE detention center. And like I said, people on the left who have no interest in history and who are accustomed to spouting out disinformation, I understand that. And I'm not one, I don't really like the shame on you, but if you're a Christian and you're posting this stuff, this disinformation, you are either deliberately lying to people about the Son of God, or you're not paying very close attention. And maybe you should start listening. I mean, I don't know what advice to give you, I guess. If just pay attention. Crack open the Bible. Heck, you don't even have to do that. You can probably do a Google search and find out the truth on this stuff. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. Pyramid Roofing Company talk and text line. I've gone to church and don't call me Shirley. I clearly said Shirley. I was just yesterday as the Independent Film Channel. I was just doing a number of different work-related things, and thought, well, put the TV on. Sometimes you put it on something that you're not really paying attention to, but you want something on. And the Independent Film Channel. Now, I know Shirley is reference to Airplane, but Naked Gun was on, and I'm just find myself, as it's supposed to be on in the background, being drawn into paying closer and closer attention to it. And just, I was thinking to myself, I know it's so cliched to say, they just don't make movies like this anymore, but they really don't. Even though there was the Liam Neeson Naked Gun release recently. I did not watch it. I just don't know. Some of its era and culture, you just cannot duplicate certain things, but such good movies. We've got news coming up 60 seconds. Springfield's Talk 1041. Hey, everyone. Welcome. Hour number 2. My name is Nick Reed. Sarah Myers here as well, of course, running things, keeping them going. We are streaming on YouTube. You can watch us there. That's Springfield's Talk 1041. On our hardscapes and outdoor springtime. Yes, we are months away, but that time will come, and I know a lot of you, if you're like me, the weather gets nice and you want to get outside and you have all these grand ideas of, I'm going to spend all this time and do this and do that, and we're really going to be out there and work in the lawn and make sure everything looks, because, it just feels good. You want to get outside. And until this past year, we really didn't have an outdoor living space. And most of you don't, honestly. I mean, maybe I just have a little patio, or you do, as we did when we first moved in. We just put some lawn chairs in the backyard, and that didn't last long because that's not a permanent solution. But we loved sitting outside. And so with Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor, made that dream a reality. And now we have it's an addition to our home. We recognize that if you bought a home and you had an entire room that you kept empty, like people come over and they visit your house and they're like, why is this room empty? Oh, well, we just haven't really done anything with it. You'd be like, well, that's weird. You paid for that room. That's a lot of square footage you're not using. Yet our backyards, we oftentimes treat that way. I got all of that space that we paid for, and we just keep it empty. We don't use it. We mow it once in a while, maybe some flowers and some plants. But now we've got an entire outdoor living space, smokeless fire pit, area for seating, and that's what you can have as well, depending on the size and scope of what you want. They can do it at Hunter Hardscapes and Outdoor. Find them under Nick's endorsements at KSGF.com. I wanted to briefly mention a report, I think it was towards the end of last week, in which a college Republican, head of the college Republicans, came out in support of the transgender professor or assistant professor that gave Samantha Folnecki a flat 0 out of 25 because of the essay opinion piece that she wrote. And without getting too far into the details, the students were given an assignment to read a piece regarding gender and how the stereotypical gender of boy and girl, that's a bad thing, and we need to just let people choose whatever they want. And the assignment was, hey, write your thoughts on this piece. And so she did that, and then was shocked to get a 0 out of 25, not a 20, not a 23, but a full null and void 0, because the reasons that were given were a couple of reasons. One, claiming that, well, you did not give empirical evidence, which that was not the assignment. That's like saying, well, you also didn't write your favorite place to get an oil change in your essay. Well, I wasn't supposed to. But also, and this is where they tip their hand, I say they because another apparently transgender employee piled on about how it was insensitive. It could be hurtful to people in the trans community, her opinions. Well, again, that would be no different than giving an assignment, asking for your students to write a review on their favorite restaurant, but then when it turns out to be a steakhouse, you give them a 0 because that's insensitive to vegetarians, who are vegetarians for moral purposes. The assignment was done. The story about the college Republican president of the college Republicans that said, no, the 0 out of 25 was the correct thing to do. I just wanted to relay a story, and I don't know whether this story, which is a true story based off my own experience, is in any way similar to the college Republican president siding with the transgender professor. When I went to MSU, my buddy and I, whom graduated a year ahead of me, high school, we decided it was going into an election year, and there were college Democrats all over the place, and we're like, why aren't there any college Republicans? Let's find a meeting. So we were able to find a meeting. And it wasn't as easy as it, because social media did not exist. Somehow we found, and so we go for a meeting, and it's in this room. It was a half-lit classroom, and there were only 4 people there. It was the president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. And they really didn't do much at all. Went over notes from last meeting and this and that and so forth. And we're like, well, that's weird. They didn't do anything. So we went back to another meeting, same thing. So we were like, hey, the college Democrats, they're doing these tailgate parties. They're doing this and that. Why don't, there are all these excuses. Now, I don't remember how, but we would learn that the president and the vice president, I don't know about the treasurer and secretary of the college Republicans at the time, but the president and vice president were registered Democrat activists who had gotten in there, gotten voted into leadership positions for the sole purpose of making sure the organization didn't do anything. A long story short, we would change that. Now, I don't know what the situation is regarding this college Republican that has come out against Samantha Fulnecke regarding Oklahoma, the situation there. I don't know. I have no idea. But my point is, simply because someone has a title does not mean that they are a good representation of what it is that title is supposed to be representing. I also want to just make one sort of side note regarding all of that. And some of the people I find end up arguing over the quality of the essay that she wrote. Well, it really wasn't that good anyhow. It wasn't that good. First off, I'm sorry, but have you spoken to graduates of many of these universities across this country? Ocasio-Cortez was given a degree in economics. So let's not pretend as if universities across this country have the highest standards any longer. But that aside, this wasn't about, listen, it would be one thing if Samantha Fulnecke were given a 21 out of 25, or a 17 out of 25, or a 12 out of 25, because of the quality of the paper. Because, yeah, you did the assignment, but you didn't do it that well. That's not what occurred. Anyone who is trying to argue that she is in the wrong in this and the quote professor was in the right because the paper wasn't that good is arguing in the wrong arena here, because that's not what this is about. This isn't about a bad grade. This was about saying this paper is null and void and is completely irrelevant. It's gone. You get an absolute 0. That's a completely different situation from whether or not it was, quote, well written. Conflating those two is misleading. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 56. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 41. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 55.
Democrats, Texas Representative Jasmine Crockett kicking off her U.S. Senate campaign because, in the minds of many, this once again is the best Democrats can do. I remind you, a primary is an opportunity for Democrats to put forth the individual that they feel is the best representation of the party. This is important to remember when they pick people like AOC, when they pick people like Jasmine Crockett, when they pick people like Kamala Harris. She had a kickoff to her Senate campaign yesterday in which, because of course, there was a performance, and I put in quotations, performance by a rapper. The rapper's name is Cameron McLeod, performing a rendition of Ain't Never Scared. This was the introduction to Crockett. This was what was decided. This is how, for her run for the United States Senate, this monumental moment, and they decided to open it with a local rapper by the name of Cameron McLeod. I want to paint a picture for you because I think the visuals here are important. The rapper is standing at a podium attempting to read the lyrics off his phone while singing along to the song in the background. At one point, and I'm going to play the audio for you, he loses his place and he's sort of fumbling and mumbling through until he finds his place again. This was her introduction yesterday.
Okay. She ain't never scared and she ain't never been. Always willing to go toe-to-toe against the president. I can't wrap my head around someone who votes Republican. She advocate for feeding kids. They protect folks touching them. Trump invading his own country with our army. What a joke. We remember Pearl Harbor by illegally bombing boats, but y'all thought we wasn't gonna do nothing but think again. They only trying to scare out of running because they think she'll win. Listen, thought I told y'all we ain't never scared. Now look who name on the docket. Got 2 words for every racist bigot. Jasmine Crockett. Y'all hear the word. Me, I hope my money goes. Society isn't trying to say affordability is a hope. She stand on business, Austin toes. Texas dope, don't need no more bad built, bleached, blonde, butch bodies moving forward.
Very impressive, don't you think? Like I said, the visuals are uncomfortable because he's standing at a podium and he's sort of leaning down on the podium so he can try to read off his phone. He gets lost. You could see during that silent period, he's trying to find where the lyrics are on his phone, and he can't. Is it that much trouble, really, particularly if you are opening for somebody that you want to be the next U.S. Senator, to just have it memorized? I've got a bit of a hang-up. I suppose it would be a pet peeve anyhow. Anytime somebody asks a question or they're giving some sort of statement and reading it off the phone, there's just something about that says to me,
you're not prepared.
Yeah, you're not almost like bare minimum.
Yeah.
Like, oh, I'll just pull it up on my phone. And I'm not saying that there aren't times that isn't appropriate, because I'm sure that there are times. Like if you're wanting to pull up an exact quote or something, but you see this a lot at you'd see it quite often at events Charlie Kirk would speak at, and you'd have these individuals that are allowed to ask any question they want, and they pull up a question on the internet and like read the question word for word. You don't even have the ability to ask the question or to give some sort of speech. Now, there were teleprompters up there. Why? That's the other thing. There were teleprompters there on either side of him. So they could have at least had the lyrics on the teleprompters, but you just increasingly see what appears to be the bare minimum that individuals have to do. And this was just another example of it. It's almost as if like right before the announcement, the person that was supposed to do the announcing didn't show up, and one of her campaign people's like, "Hey, I have a cousin who's a local rapper, and he's got a song, and he changed some lyrics to fit. He can get up and do that." And she's like, "Yeah, that's fine. Just let him go up there." I mean, that's about what it was. It reminded me of the episode of The Office where the Dundies were at Chili's. And he's singing along. You know what I'm talking about?
Yes.
There's a song, and he's changed the lyrics, but he's playing the actual original song, or Dwight is, as he's handling the sound system. And Michael Scott is singing his version of it while the original version is playing at the same volume at the same time. And so it's just chaotic, and it's a demonstration of bare minimum. And I don't know, it just really comes across that way to me. And this is I suspect there's a very good chance that Democrats will choose her. That they will determine, of all of the Democrats in the entire state of Texas, this is the one that we believe is the best option, the best representation of what the Democrat Party is going into 2026. Hey, we're in the last full week for adoptions for Santa's Angels. That would be a correct on the
Yes.
timeline, correct?
Yep.
Yes, because all gifts next Wednesday is the deadline.
Thursday,
or
December
Thursday,
18th.
18th. Okay. So that means this upcoming weekend will be the last weekend for you to do shopping. Not that one is confined to shopping on the weekends, doing the Christmas shopping, but I know for a lot of folks, schedule-wise, that is the time that is most convenient I swung by and repopulated the empty tree at Mexican Villa on South Campbell. So that was a location. There's obviously a lot of traffic. It's very easy just to pull in there and to grab and adopt one. And so they were the first to have their tree emptied out, thanks to your generosity. But now, again, barring the number of kids that were put on there yesterday being gone yesterday, there's, I would encourage you to swing by. So this is the thing. They can go very, very quickly. But we do definitely want to make sure that all of the kids are adopted out by the end of this week, in order to feel relatively assured that you will be able to get all of the gifts back here to the station, so that we'll have everything ready to go in time for Christmas. Wheeler Metals is our very generous sponsor overall this year, helping us get these gifts for kids that are not with families, for reasons that are never good, never positive, and even when they were with their families, oftentimes did not have anything that even resembled a Christmas. And this is an opportunity for us in the community to show that there are good people out there. Sometimes these are young people that have gone their entire lives, many of them in their teens, and just never really had an experience with a good person, until they have gotten into the KVC Missouri system, if you will, and had the opportunity to be around some genuine people who are just caring people. And so come Christmas time, we really want to, at the very least, have that connection for them with someone, in the knowledge that someone, quote, adopted their name, them for Christmas, and went out and purchased them a gift. The tags for each of the kids that have their name, first name, obviously not last, age, and a wish list. You don't have to get everything on the wish list, but we do ask that you get at least one thing on there so that they know this wasn't random. They specifically were chosen. The area locations that have trees with kids for adopting, and again, I say from yesterday to today, any one of those trees could have been emptied out. But Crown Power and Equipment, this is on Chestnut Expressway, almost to Glenstone. Mexican Villa, South Campbell. Greene County Freight and Food Sales on West Kearney. And Pinnager Chevy in Republic on 60, right there in Republic. And it's the building, if you're facing, it's on the right-hand side, which would be the easternmost building there in the Pinnager Chevy in Republic lot. All the information we have at ksgf.com. If you haven't adopted a kid yet, please, we ask that you do so to help us out. Make sure that, because what we don't want, this is the danger, that a lot of these kids for the very first time are asked, what would you like for Christmas? And then to not have that fulfilled is worse than not have been asked in the first place.
Did you, by any chance, count how many ornaments we still had floating around out there whenever you visited?
Not in total, no.
Okay.
But I'll track that number down today, which, we need to know in the moment, obviously, but it can change so fast. By the time tomorrow we get back on air, but I can see what I can find out in terms of the overall numbers.
Okay.
Because I'll hit a couple one day and then a couple the next, and so it's. And frankly, I just haven't kept track. But hopefully, the answer we are looking for is
zero.
Is zero. That is the answer we're looking for with your help. Santa's Angels, you can find all the relevant and needed information at ksgf.com.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 56. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 41. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 55.
I want to go to homeloan.com. A lot of understandable questions. You keep hearing about interest rates, and I think there is a decision Friday that's going to be made regarding interest rates, but that isn't the same sort of interest rate that or it's not the same as home loans. Those are, and Emily Johnson sort of touched on this Friday, that's interest rate stuff that is more along lines of your credit cards and the short-term borrowing stuff, not long-term like homes and home loans. But what does affect that? Does it indirectly? Does that trickle down? These are the questions that the Carrickers and the team can answer. And this Friday, I know either Anthony or Alex Carricker are scheduled to be out with us in the 8 o'clock hour at Scramblers. And so if you have any sort of questions, you happen to be out there, or if you just want to deliberately come out and ask them, utilize them as a tool. They love what they do, and they love helping people, and they are there for informational purposes. And it's a great one for free breakfast. I don't know if you've heard the ads or not, but and Monday, Congressman Burleson joined us, and he's going to be buying breakfast for folks out there while we're doing the show from 6A to 9A. If you come out there and you've got a Burleson bumper sticker on your car, then they're going to buy you breakfast. If you don't have one, they'll get you set up with one. So everyone can be eligible for that breakfast. So they'll be doing that at the same time we're broadcasting live out there. So whether it's free breakfast courtesy of Congressman Burleson, or you've got questions for the Carrickers and their team when it comes to home loans, and I want a great homeloan.com. There was a posting from Gavin Newsom's press office on Friday that got a lot of attention, and like so many of his postings, not for the reasons they want. It was a response to a photo of Gavin Newsom sitting during some interview, and he had his legs crossed in a way that, frankly, a lot of guys would not be able to cross their legs without it being extremely uncomfortable. And it just looked weird. He sort of does weird things with his body anyhow, like his hands, and he's odd. For a guy that on one hand you think visually has sort of the, hey, I'm the Fonz, cool guy together, when you really start looking, he does a lot of weird things with his body physically. And the leg crossing scenario with the real extreme, frankly, he had his legs crossed like he did not have male body parts. I mean, that's what it appeared as. So it was going viral. And his press office decided to try and lean into it, apparently. And so they took the picture and they created a doctored image of him in that same seat, that same scenario, but instead he was in sort of a yoga style Kama Sutra pose. His legs were like above his head, and it was titled "Democracy Requires Flexibility." To which critics of Gavin Newsom were like, "This is what they posed? Like, what? Is this serious? Is this really the response to the mockery?" This is a continuation, and this says a lot about elite politicians. This is a continuation of Gavin Newsom's decision to try and be like Donald Trump. And this isn't a secret, by the way. I mean, they fully acknowledge this through his postings on social media and the all caps and just the usage of certain verbiage. The Newsom people have acknowledged they're copying Trump. I believe that what this is an attempt to copy Trump's ability when people make fun of him, or J.D. Vance, or a lot of the people in the MAGA world. They they take it and embrace it, and they run with it. Whether it is calling Trump and his supporters garbage, and then Trump taking a garbage truck to the rally up in Wisconsin and wearing the reflective vest, or the J.D. Vance memes, and J.D. Vance leading the reposting of these memes that were supposed to be making fun of him. I swear to you that the entire Trump dance thing became such a popular thing because the first time Trump did it, people on the left were mocking him because of, look at that guy, look at him try to dance. This guy is such an idiot, and Trump embraced it. His people embraced it. And it works for him. Everything, and things that are serious, too, like mugshots. Oh, we're going to get a mugshot of Trump that's going to torpedo his reelection campaign. Nope, Trump sells it, puts it on T-shirts. He's got it in the White House, the photo. Gavin Newsom's office taking what was a photo of him being mocked and then deciding to make it, quote, even worse in order to try and own it like Trump and Vance own it whenever people mock them. It doesn't work. And it doesn't work for a couple of reasons. One of the reasons it doesn't work is because Newsom, for example, his people that are doing these postings, they're not funny. In fact, this one in particular, it's kind of gross looking. It's perverted. It just is. Have you seen the yoga pose one that they reposted?
I don't think so.
It looks gross, and I for a number of different reasons. And I if you've seen it or if you look, I mean, it's just not overtly gross, but there's something about it's gross, and it's not funny. Part of the reason it works for Trump and J.D. Vance is because people, when they do it, they see that's just them. These are people who don't take themselves too seriously when they don't have to. These are individuals that aren't affected by mockery in a way that makes them angry and sad and mad, but instead they can joke about it. They, frankly, have a sense of humor. And they're very, and this is the key for people who have the ability to poke fun at themselves, it's security. They're very, very secure in who they are. They're very, very secure in their success. They're very secure in the way that they carry themselves. And when you are secure in that way, you can laugh about this. We talked about this yesterday with Carissa Codell, and that, all of these mean things that people were posting about, and she turns it into something that becomes a positive for her because she's just very secure in herself. And so those things don't hurt her. With Donald Trump and J.D. Vance, these things don't bother them. They instead think, oh, this is kind of funny. Let's play off of this. When Gavin Newsom or Democrats try to replicate this, it doesn't work because, one, they're just not funny. They're not secure. It's coming from this place not of like a joyful, fun-poking place, but out of an attempt to stick it to somebody else, to really show them. And a person like Gavin Newsom, and this is where you get a real recognition of the difference between an authentic, secure individual who is who they are versus someone who is constantly trying to be what they feel other people want them to be. Someone who doesn't actually even have a true inner self any longer. And Gavin Newsom, who has openly acknowledged that his whole point is just to copy Trump. And that's because And we've seen Democrats do this and attempt to do this when it comes to social media posting, when it comes to their language that they use, when it comes to coming up with clever names to call people, when it comes to this idea, well, we need podcasters that are like this and that. It's all, what is Trump doing? What is Trump doing? What is Trump doing? Which screams, these are people who are not individually secure people who have any sort of true identity. So what do they have to do? They have to just look at what is he doing and let's mimic that. And that's how you end up with Gavin Newsom, people, this is his press office releasing these weird photos of him in these icky yoga poses, thinking that somehow it's clever because, well, this is what Donald Trump would do. Well, when Donald Trump does it or J.D. Vance does it, it's funny because they are the ones doing it. It's not them doing it because you do it and they're copying you. That does not work. I mean, if you just put it in any sort of real-life scenario, and if you've ever, maybe in high school when people are impressionable and you come across someone and you realize they're trying to act like there's like the real funny guy or the real popular guy or the real funny girl, and they're mimicking them, and, that's just kind of off-putting and sad. In the world of comedy, one of the single greatest sins you can commit is to steal another comedian's jokes. And it's one of the worst accusations that a comedian can be faced, that is being accused of stealing jokes. I mean, some of the deepest, most I don't know if dark is the right word, but the deepest battles that have occurred in the comedy circuit with stand-up comedians surround accusations of joke stealing. And when you have so many people that are part of the elites, and you see this in particular with the Democrat Party and the Gavin Newsoms and others, who not only try that to mimic and to steal what the more popular people are doing, but openly acknowledge it without the recognition of why that doesn't work, it really is kind of sad. Springfield's Talk 1041. I'm Nick Reed. White House Chief of Staff Susie Wiles said on the Mom View, which apparently is a podcast, that Trump is going to campaign as aggressively in the 2026 midterms as he did during the 2024 presidential election, saying Trump is planning a year-long national tour touting his economic agenda. A White House official confirmed to the Daily Caller on Thursday. Wiles said this on the podcast, which was actually recorded in November, that presidents usually avoid deep involvement in the midterm, but Trump's campaign could be crucial to maintaining a Republican Senate majority. Now, I've long held that the most meaningful help that Trump can give any Republican is to actually have his name on the ballot. Outside of that, his influence diminishes greatly. And that's not an insult to him. That is a reflection of the GOP. People that are Trump supporters that will get out to vote for Donald Trump when he's on the ballot, and then, since they're there, go ahead and vote for the Republicans as well, are not necessarily moved to vote for Republicans, even if Trump is saying, hey, you need to get out and vote for this Republican. And a lot of it, I'll just give you my personal perspective on it, because in my mind, when Trump is doing that, he's doing it, well, he's got to, and yeah, he needs to keep the majorities and everything, but that does not translate to me feeling excited or enthusiastic about the Republican Party getting meaningful things done. In fact, when it comes to domestic policies, the Republican Party is what has been stopping him. Judges, obviously, that are left-wing are a massive part of the problem as well. But you think about some of the particularly when it comes to the budget, where we've had the real problems here, it's been the Republican Party. And the GOP fails to recognize that just in a Trump supporter's gut, the GOP is not the same as Trump. And the GOP tells itself, well, but the voters will understand that if we're not in charge, then Trump's not going to be able to get anything done. Well, what is it that he's going to be getting done with you in charge? Republican voters don't know what that is. Here's what I worry about, and I know I'm not the only one. This is almost conventional wisdom at this point, that Trump is going to go around the country touting what has been thus far successful in terms of numbers, in terms of charts, in terms of this year compared to last year when it comes to the economy, and portray that as if, like, you know, well, we won, it's done and it's over with. And have that be the theme, like, oh, look, the economy is better, in a way that makes it feel, and feelings, unfortunately, are very important when it comes to campaigns, as if this is kind of success, what we're dealing with now, and people are not happy with it now. A really big and devastating economic hole was dug for this country. And anyone who has ever tried to crawl their way out of a hole financially understands that it is not easy, and it takes a great deal of discipline, and it takes a great deal of time, particularly if you've done it to yourself. And as a country, that's the situation that we were put in. And it is a lot easier to put us in that sort of hole than it is to get us out of it. The simplicity of marketing oneself as vote for me, I'll fix this, is a completely understandable thing. That's what people like, ease. They like the easily digestible stuff. And so Trump went around saying we're going to day one. Now, in Trump's mind, it's a process, and when he's talking about fixing things on day one, he's talking about fixing the problem, the actual outcome that we are desiring because of fixing the problem is going to be somewhere down the road. And I'm not even arguing that he thinks people should know that. be honest here. Again, marketing, and you just tell people day one this stuff's going to be fixed, even though you recognize that that's fixing the problem, and the outcome is something that's going to come later down the road. What I worry is going to happen is a tour that is highlighting the successes, which is important. Gas prices are lower than that, and inflation went from 9% down to this, and all of these areas that are significant, and they are the beginning signs of what hopefully is the long-term improvement that gets us back to where we were at the very least before the Democrats got control of things. But what I worry is that it's going to come off as, look, we fixed it. And people are going to believe this is it. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's great. Gas prices are down and egg prices are down. But when you but the problem is like the overall, and I think, again, this, it's just the overall everything because of what was done to us, and then pointing out, well, look at this and this over here. Yes, okay, that's good, but it's like a big problem. Not just a here and a there, but a really big problem. And Democrats are going to, and I would as well, use Trump's claim that this is a, quote, hoax. You and I understand that he's talking about the Democrats pretending as if they are the solution, given that they are the ones who originated the severity of this problem. And so it is a hoax for them to claim that they are somehow the answer. The problem is, and Trump should know this because of the way that marketing works, they are going to use that to make people believe Trump is claiming, the economic that you think things are bad. No, they're not bad. That's not true. That's a hoax. And unfortunately, that was the losing approach that the Biden administration took and that the Democrats took. They ran around telling everyone, oh, it's much better than you think it is. Now, they were wrong. They were lying, and they had to. I mean, it was a continued downward spiral while they were going around, but that really wasn't relevant. What was relevant is what people were feeling when they went to the grocery store, what they were feeling when they looked at, here's how much money I have after I got my paycheck and I've gone to pay my bills and so forth. And that, in a real meaningful, we can breathe again way, that has not gotten to us yet. And that is going to take time if we stay on the right track. And I think the acknowledgement of that is what needs to be the theme. It isn't just pointing out all of the things that have begun to get better, but that we are in the very initial stages of turning this thing around. And that when you have an extremely deep hole that has been dug, it takes a while to get out. And the one thing we cannot afford is to stop what we are beginning to see as signs of the improvement. We're at stage 1 of 50. And it's going to take a bit of time and patience to get there. But the worst thing we can do at this point is to pull the plug on it now and just reverse course and go back to digging that hole. Springfield's Talk 1041. Welcome, Hour 3. My name is Nick Reed. Santa's Angels underway. Last full week to adopt a kid. We do ask that if you have not done yet, that you do so today, if at all possible. Thank you to Wheeler Metals being our overall sponsor in terms of locations to get the kids. We've got 4 of those locations. Crown Power and Equipment, that is if you are on Chestnut Expressway and you are headed east, right before you hit Glenstone, it is on the right-hand side. Stop in there, and it's just right. You walk in the door, and the tree's right there, just about, 10 feet in the door. You cannot miss it. A handful of kids still available as of yesterday morning at that location. Same thing, Mexican Villa, South Campbell. As of yesterday morning, a handful of kids there. We've got Greene County Freight and Food Sales. They've been doing this for years now. I don't even know how many years, but I'm pretty sure longer than the other locations. Anyhow, longtime partners, huge thank you to them. They're fantastic people as well. And that is on West Kearney. And then Pinnager, Chevy, and Republic. This is the second year that the Pinnager family has used their location in Republic to have a Santa's Angels tree. So if you can stop by and grab one of the kids for adoption, that would be great. Or more than one even, if you have the ability to do so. You don't have to purchase every item that the child listed when asked, what would you like if someone were to buy you a gift for Christmas? Some kids may just have 1 or 2. Some may have a whole long listing. Of course, when it comes to the ages of the children, a lot of times the priorities obviously change. And that's something to keep in mind. But we do ask that at least one of the items, at least one of them that they request, you do go ahead and purchase. And outside of that, if you do want to purchase more, they can be all the items on the list. Or if there's something else that you wanted to throw in there. We had the question last week or the week before about, are Bibles okay? Bibles are just fine if that is part of the Christmas gift that you want to give them this Christmas season. It certainly would seem like appropriate material given that it's Christmas. So any other questions that you may have, you can reach out to us. And then those gifts do need to be back to us by next Thursday. But all of those details are on each of the tags at on each of the tags. But you can also get the information under the Santa's Angels section at KSGF.com. Ozarks Elder Law, you don't want to not plan. If somebody in your family turns 18 years of age, you ought to head straight over to one of the 10 area locations. If you got an 18-year-old, still lives at home, they're out celebrating their 18th birthday and in a horrible car accident, or maybe has a reaction to food, shellfish or something, ends up in some sort of medical state in which they are unable to make decisions for themselves. If the hospital wants you to make the call, you can, but legally it is up to not you, because this is a legal adult we're talking about, even if it's still your son or daughter and they just turned 18 and living at home and that you fully take care of them. Legally, not any longer, unless, of course, the government says you do. It is out of your hands. We think so often about wills. We think so often about trust. We think so often about these things that need to be taken care of once you get to the age that you're expected to die, not once you turn 18. We've got to change that mindset. Ozarks Elder Law can make sure that you are fully and securely and legally taken care of when it comes to all of this. What do you need to cover? They will provide you that information as well. Consultation is a courtesy to you. And then one price after they determine and let you know what needs to be done. They'll also let you know here's the price, and then you can make the decision for yourself. No hourly billing, none of that stuff. It's one price after the courtesy consultation. You can get all of their location and contact info at ozarkselderlaw.com. Also, Nick's endorsements at ksgf.com. Mayor-elect Mamdani revealed yesterday that he is going to ditch his rent-stabilized Queens apartment and move to Gracie Mansion with his wife, Rama Duaji, after his inauguration. Something that's not required. It's a nice little perk so that people that make it to higher office, that being mayor of New York, can live the trappings of the elite. And lo and behold, the working man's person, the working man's mayor, Ma'am Donnie, that has sneered at the elites, is suddenly one of them. Isn't just shocking? And let me tell you what will happen amongst his supporters. They will justify this. See, this is how socialism works. This is how socialism works. The people who get into power enjoy the trappings of the wealthy and the elite. I don't know that, well, there are examples all over the place, but in terms of high profile, once Castro overthrew the corrupt government of Cuba, all in the name of the working man, all in the name of undoing the control that the elites had over the working people of Cuba. He and Che Guevara, just the working man's warriors, and immediately moved into the biggest mansions in all of Cuba. And while everyone else continued to live the lifestyle that they had before, which over time would diminish due to the economic policies of Castro, they lived like kings. They wanted for nothing. Lap of luxury they lived. This is how it always works. The socialists get in power and they live like the elites. They live like the kings while all of their supporters continue to run around living the exact same lives that they were told magically were somehow going to get better. We're going to get a news update, traffic update, and then the reason, of course, he feels, he realizes he's got to explain why it is that he is shifting to the life of upper crust elitism and out of the working man warrior's role. And the reason that he gives is the typical elite socialist, communist, Marxist reason. All of that ahead. Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line 447 KSGF. Latest news update.
And the first alert forecast from Ozarks First meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by St. Clair of the Ozarks Home Improvements. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 56. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 41. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 55.
All right, Mayor-elect Mamdani revealed Monday that he and his wife have decided that they really made the tough decision to abandon their everyday New York digs and instead move into the elite Gracie Mansion. Now, this is something that does not have to be done. It's traditionally been done for some time, but this is an offering. It's a nice little perk for the elites, and Mamdani, he's just really made the very tough. It's so difficult for him to make this decision. Now, the reason that he gives is down to his family's safety, see, because New York is just not that safe of a place, particularly for him. This is, again, the perspective of the elite. Well, see, I'm different. So you have to understand, I can't be expected to live in the same apartment that I've lived in all this time because I'm different now. I'm different. See, they always have a reason. There's always a reason why they should get to have some sort of right or experience that you don't. By the way, I'm not arguing that people don't have different lifestyles and that people don't have different challenges and perhaps dangers because of their jobs. That is true. If you are a high-profile individual, you are potentially more of a target. Now, on the flip side, you also have paid security, which the average person does not. But everyone's life is different. This is just a great example of the elitism mindset. That it's like somehow we're all exactly the same, but they're the only different ones. You hear it all the time. I recall when there was a big, this goes years back, and Tom Selleck with Rosie O'Donnell once upon a time had a daytime talk show. And Tom Selleck was on the talk show promoting some new film. And he also at the time was the spokesperson for the NRA. And instead of asking him questions about the film or the whatever it was he was promoting, she railed on him about gun violence. Well, it would later turn out, of course, she had bodyguards that had firearms. Well, but that was different, she said. Because she's a celebrity, see, and so people target her. Every time someone gets stabbed, lit on fire, raped, or beaten in a mass transit system, how often are those celebrities? These elites believe that they are just different, that the challenges they face, they alone face these challenges. So because I'm a celebrity, I'm the only one in the world that might have a stalker. Not true. The vast majority of people who have stalkers aren't celebrities. Well, as a celebrity, I might be targeted as some sort of crime. Somebody might, think I'm rich and try to steal from me. You think celebrities are the only ones that deal with this? Wake up. Mamdani. Well, now I have to move to Gracie Mansion because, the people of New York, part of what's so funny about this is for his safety. What, from other New Yorkers? I thought you were supposed to be representing these people. I thought you loved these people. These are your people. Now you're in such danger from your own people, a danger that no one else in New York has to deal with. See, New York is the most peaceful place. New York has no problems when it comes to crime. New York has no problem with people being raped or stabbed. No, none of that whatsoever. No. Mamdani, however, he uniquely might find himself in danger due to crime, so he has to move, as painful as it's going to be, to Gracie Mansion. Poor guy. Poor guy. However will he survive? Listen to some of what he said. These people are just so disgusting, and part of the reason it's so disgusting is that you people on the left buy into this. You totally buy into it. He said as he's just already longing for his home that he will be leaving, for the lifestyle of the rich and famous. Quote, cooking dinner side by side in our kitchen, sharing a sleepy elevator ride with our neighbors in the evening, hearing music and laughter vibrate through the walls of the apartment. These are all things Mamdani says he's going to miss so desperately. But see, he can't trust. Evidently now, these same people are a danger to his life. It's for his safety. He continued to Astoria, thank you for showing us the best of New York City. We've called this neighborhood home as our city weathered a devastating pandemic, cruel attacks on immigrants, and years of affordability crisis. Well, I guess he doesn't have to worry about that anymore, does he? Quote, time and again, this community has shown up for one another. We will miss it all. The endless Adeni chai, the spirited conversation in Spanish, Arabic, and every language in between, the aromas of seafood and shawarma drifting down the block. Now he'll just have to deal with the sounds of that little bell, ding, 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 as he calls the servants to fetch him whatever it is that he may want in the moment. As a true socialist sacrificing so much for his people. And of course, what's even more brilliant about his excuse, because it's just not safe for him in New York, is all of his plans are going to lead to a more dangerous New York City, including replacing police officers with counselors. If that's going to make things safe for Mamdani, why do you need to move to Gracie? Just to hire some counselors to hang out with you. That's all you've got to do. I'm sure there's a number of counselors out there that would be more than happy to donate their time to hang out around your apartment, to stand outside your apartment, if that is what is going to make crime less of a problem in New York City. He's announced that homeless can start setting up camp in the streets once again and utilizing the buses as their new mobile homes for free. See, Mamdani doesn't have to walk down those streets. Mamdani doesn't have to ride those buses. Mamdani's election is an example of how collectively stupid people can be and have it right in their face. No shame at all. In their face. Do you think that the supporters that have elected him because he's going to make things so much safer for all of us and that he is against the opulence of the elite, do you think they're going to be protesting outside his new mansion? No. They will justify it. Well, you know, he needs it because, wow, Donald Trump has made things so bad, poor Mamdani has no choice. Watching people get played like a fiddle is something that some people learn from, but clearly others do not. Because they will stand in line and beg, play me next. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Yesterday on CNN's The Arena, Democrat Representative Jason Crow said he will not comply with the FBI investigation into a video that he, with others, made about military orders. Host Casey Hunt said, I want to ask you for an update on the FBI investigation into you and the 5 of your colleagues who were featured in that video. As the FBI made additional contact with you, do you plan to sit for the interview? He said, yeah, there have been multiple outreaches by the FBI. I'm not going to be threatened. I'm not going to be intimidated. Let's be clear about this. There's, so forth and so forth. And he's not going to comply. Well, isn't that a nice world to live in? Do you think you and I have that ability? Even if we're completely innocent, to just tell the FBI, no, I don't think so. Or any law enforcement for that matter. Say somebody's trying to pull me over, maybe I'm swerving a little bit, speeding, whatever. Like, I don't think I'm going to comply. I don't have to do that because I just don't have to do it. I'm being investigated maybe for theft or whatever, and they issue a search warrant. I'm like, no, I don't think so. Nope. Wow. That must be nice. Must be nice to be a Democrat, an elected Democrat, that just gets to say, no, I don't think so. I don't think you'll be investigating me today. At least no one's above the law in this country, or at least demonstrates that they feel they are.
Springfield's Talk 1041, the first alert forecast from Ozark's first meteorologist Tom Schmidt, sponsored by J&S Automotive. Today we'll see sunny skies with a high near 56. Tonight, partly cloudy with a low around 41. For your Wednesday, sunny with a high near 48. And taking a look at Thursday, mostly sunny with a high near 55.
All right, the Senate Republicans are going to launch an investigation into Biden immigration program after the D.C. National Guard shooting. Senate Republicans team up for an investigation into Biden's immigration parole program, which they argue are what allowed the alleged D.C. National Guard shooter into the country. Senator Cornyn, Texas, Josh Hawley, Missouri, are set to lead a hearing looking into the Biden administration parole policies later this month. The announcement of the hearing, slated for December 16th, comes on the heels of the shooting of 2 National Guard members by, allegedly, Ramanullah Lakanwal, an Afghan man who entered the country under Biden's Operation Allies Welcome in 2026. I guess the allies part was open for interpretation. It was launched in the midst of Biden's botched withdrawal of troops in Afghanistan, which led to the eventual Taliban takeover of the country after U.S. forces exited. Biden at the time directed the Department of Homeland Security to coordinate the resettlement of, quote, vulnerable Afghans, including those who worked alongside us in Afghanistan for the past 2 decades as they safely resettle into the United States. It also allowed for actual members of the Taliban, as long as they promised that they wouldn't do Taliban-y stuff. Cornyn, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Subcommittee on Border Security and Immigration, said in a statement to Fox News Digital that he has been warning of repercussions that the policy would have, and that, quote, now those concerns have become reality with deadly consequences. There will be no greater stain on Joe Biden's legacy than that of his failed immigration parole programs, which he abused time after time to welcome into the U.S. hundreds of thousands of unvetted illegal aliens and potential terrorists who hate our country and want to kill Americans. Hawley, who chairs the Senate Judiciary Committee on Crime and Counterterrorism, said in a statement to Fox News Digital that he has been sounding the alarm on the Biden administration's refusal to vet evacuees since 2021, noting in a post on X at the time that an email shared with him by a U.S. official present during the evacuation in Afghanistan that he was ordered by Biden to, quote, fill up the planes even without vetting. And now their recklessness has opened the door to terrorism within our borders, including the deadly attack on our National Guardmen 2 weeks ago. Hawley said there needs to be accountability. Who's going to be held accountable? I sense that my exhaustion at what appears to be the no one being held accountable, and me, that it's as redundant as the lack of anybody being held accountable, like my exhaustion of this. I believe, like many of you, become a little tired of what I anticipate is going to be more of us learning what we already know and nobody being held accountable. We're told, perhaps some of this is bad messaging, because these are very, very important issues. These are very important issues. To call for an investigation or to lead an investigation for the purposes of, quote, holding people accountable, when has anybody ever held accountable for ever? I mean, at what point do you just stop? I understand it's fair to say, well, what do you want them to do? Nothing. I honestly, here's the way I look at it. Are we going to learn anything new? The reasons that Cornyn and Hawley both give for the investigation seem to be the conclusion of the investigation, and that is that everything that Biden did was wrong and bad. I mean, I don't know what we're looking to gain here, and I'm fully acknowledging that maybe that's the point. Maybe there are things that we're going to learn that do allow for people to be held accountable. I acknowledge that. At the same time, however, I think it needs to be acknowledged that my cynicism is well earned. That this Republican Party in particular does have a history of calling for investigations to expose things that we're like, well, we kind of already knew that this is no surprise, and nobody's held accountable. Over and over and over and over and over again. And I just don't know. I mean, it's not, this is not about the withdrawal itself, but the poor vetting process, the lack of a vetting, the program of importing. I think we all know what happened. I mean, I just don't expect any surprises here. The Biden administration absolutely recklessly just started bringing in, without any sort of meaningful vetting process, people from Afghanistan. Why did they do it? Political reasons, incompetence, a combination, maybe some other reasons, okay. Who was involved? Well, this guy over here and that guy over here, and well, doing okay, all right, okay. Now what? What's going to happen? When somebody heads up a committee and they say that we have to hold these people accountable, perhaps we should start requiring them to explain what that looks like. When you say holding people accountable, what is it you mean? Do you mean that somebody is going to be charged with something? Do you mean that there will be some sort of punishment? What do you mean? We continue to be told that people are going to be held accountable. Maybe this is on us because we aren't demanding to know, what do you mean by that? Because perhaps their version of accountability is different than ours. Maybe their version of accountability is sitting on the other end of a tongue lashing. And I mean that sincerely, because this is one of the things that Josh Hawley in particular does very, 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 very well. I would argue, not just in the Senate, but the House. No one is better at it than he is. And perhaps he is the absolute best. There may be no one that even reaches his level. He's very good at it. But it's like your favorite song. At some point, you're like, okay, we've listened to it a lot. I do like it. It's awesome. But... And is this going to be if I were to be forced to predict what will come out of this, it will be me playing audio for you of Holly just, really giving it to someone, right? Somebody that earned it, backing them into a corner, demanding that they answer questions that are obvious questions, that are needed questions, and then absolutely no answer. And then he'll make the rounds, do the talk shows, and then, like I said, shows like this will play the audio because it'll be a great tongue lashing, and then that'll be it. And in fairness, perhaps that is what Republicans consider to be accountability. We bring you up here and you are forced to take a public tongue lashing, and that will be talked about for 24 to 48 hours, and that is accountability. That, to me, is not satisfying any longer. In the moment it is, and for a while it was, because we've seen that. And I'm not talking specifically Senator Hawley, but just overall. How long have we been playing audio bites of, oh, look at Trey Gowdy when he was in Gar. Oh, he really gave it to him. Oh, look at, this per. Oh, look at Josh. Oh, boy, really showed, man, whipped him good. Okay, now what? That's it? It's just, it really is almost it. Like back in the day when it was just about humiliation. Like, all right, this person did this bad thing, so we're going to drag him out here, Renaissance Festival style, out here into the little town square and put him in the thing, and we're going to let people throw fruit at him for a while, and, we're going to call him all sorts of names, and then they're going to be in there for 12 hours, and then we'll let them out, and then they will have to live with that shame forever. I get the sense that is how Congress operates in terms of holding people accountable. Best I can tell, in recent memory, there's only been one person that has actually been held accountable in any meaningful way in terms of a result of Congress executing its authority, and that was Steve Bannon being sent to prison because he did not comply with the subpoena issued by Democrats. And arguably, that should have never even happened in the first place. But outside of that, and I'm not saying it hasn't happened, but is there anyone else? So we'll see. Maybe there will be fantastic insight, and there will be people in a meaningful way held accountable regarding an investigation into the Biden administration's parole policies. Springfield's Talk 104.1. I'm Nick Reed. Hey, everyone, it's Sarah Myers.
Hey everyone, that's me.
It is you.
That is me.
Good job.
Yes. We've done one thing today, one thing right. I was talking with Josh over at the Pyramid Roofing Company on Friday, and one of the things that he really wanted me to relay to all of you is that door knockers, they are getting pretty desperate, and they are starting to work in areas that haven't even received any type of storm damage this year. And they are going up to people and they're telling them, hey, you have storm damage, you need to file a claim, and it's causing people to have a claim history, and they're not getting their roofs replaced because they don't actually have any damage. And he just wanted me to relay the information that the Pyramid team, they always offer free roof inspections. They always have your best interest in mind, and they'll let you know if you need to do a roof repair versus a roof replacement, and then they work with you through the insurance process without making you sign anything. And as I was saying all of that, during a break, a listener came up and said, hey, that is 100% true about the door knockers just being really desperate and pushy. And he told me that he actually fell victim to one just a couple of years ago, and he said, man, I really wish that I would have taken the advice and just done a free roof inspection with the Pyramid Roofing Company. So if you've had a door knocker come out, don't fall victim. Make sure that you do that free roof inspection with the Pyramid Roofing Company, and make sure that you actually have storm damage before you file a claim. If it's time to have the Pyramid team out to your home, reach out to Josh today. You can find all of the contact information for the Pyramid Roofing Company under the Sarah's Endorsements tab at ksgf.com.
Speaking of Pyramid Roofing Company, talk and text line regarding the calls from Senator Cornine of Texas, who appears to perhaps have quite a challenge on his hand in the primary coming up, and then Senator Josh Hawley, who will have his seat as long as he wants it here in Missouri, and their calls for an investigation into Joe Biden's parole program with Afghanis coming into the United States. This, of course, was the program that the National Guard shooter was part of. And I was just expressing that I don't believe anything will come of this. I don't really know what information that we don't already know will be revealed. And I think it was Holly said, people need to be held accountable. I have no faith whatsoever that anyone's going to be held accountable for that. And I'm laughing genuinely. I almost think it's a joke to even claim that. Some of your text messages, they can stick their investigations where the sun don't shine. It does absolutely nothing. Do nothing. Congress needs to just go away. They are worthless. Another saying, it's so bad. This is from the KSGF app. It is so bad at this point, it's unimaginable what they would have to find to give reason for actual accountability and follow through with something more than the aforementioned song and dance of a tongue lashing. Now, I will also say, I know that there are instances, and I've heard it at times explained that in some instances, the investigation itself is really all that can be done, that the purpose is to utilize the power of Congress to investigate things that may not otherwise be available to investigate, but when it comes to holding the people accountable, that's not their thing. And I understand that there are oftentimes those restraints in place, but don't say it's about holding people accountable if you aren't able to. So if these hearings aren't actually going to result in somebody being held accountable, don't say that we need to hold people accountable in the context of having another hearing. I know it sounds really cynical, but I just at some point, I feel as if this is all show for us and it's to look like we're doing something, or maybe they genuinely think they are doing something. It's just, it's this law of diminishing return in an effort to convince Americans that they're doing something. Every time it just demonstrates to me that it gives me less confidence that they ever will do anything because it doesn't get done. It's like, how many times are we going to go through this before we realize, well, it's you've destroyed your credibility in that particular capacity. That's just my feelings on it. It's like, what's the point? What's the purpose? To that, one of the things that was discussed quite a bit yesterday and will continue to be discussed is this public back and forth between Marjorie Taylor Greene and Trump. Marjorie Taylor Greene, of course, a couple weeks ago announcing her retirement. And Donald Trump doing what Donald Trump does and lobbing insults at her and essentially saying, well, yeah, she lost my support, so she might as well not run for re-election. And then Marjorie Taylor Greene being invited to all of the anti-Trump networks in order to air her grievances and to start calling out Trump for things that she, well, I don't know what the point is. And I suppose that's my point. I believe it would be beneficial to, well, it is in life for anyone, but in this context, the Republican Party, before anything is done, to ask, what is my goal? What's my goal? Not even what is my motivation, but what is my goal? Because those can be two different things. You can have a goal of, well, we need people to know about this. Okay, what are you hoping the result from that will be? I mean, just to know, and that's it. Okay. Or is your goal to have some sort of altered outcome due to that information being provided to the general public at large? Donald Trump, he is Donald Trump, does what he does. I think that at times there is a power in acceptance, and it can be a bit liberating at times as well. I'm not someone who, when I support Donald Trump, supports Donald Trump because I think he's perfect and agree with absolutely everything he does and every approach. So that it puts me at somewhat ease, because when he does things like get into these public battles with somebody like Marjorie Taylor Greene that I don't feel has really any benefit. Like I just don't think there's any upside at all. But I don't dwell on it, because that's who he is. And nobody's perfect. The good outweighs the bad. And so I don't spend a great deal of time toiling over it and worrying about it, because I just think, what's the point in that? It's not going to change. Worrying about it doesn't do any good. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene, for her part, I mean, I don't mind her going back and forth and lobbing insults, but you got to ask yourself, why do you think you're being invited on 60 Minutes and The View and networks like that? Clearly, it isn't because they think that you are somebody worthy of hearing. They clearly have mocked you. They have portrayed you as a nutcase that should not be listened to until now. So you have to ask yourself, why are they doing that? A reasonable person, I believe, would assess it as because they think that it's going to further their goal of weakening the Trump administration and weakening his agenda in the Republican Party. Now, is that your goal? I don't know. I mean, I genuinely have no clue. I'm not going to try to mind read her like a lot of people do, but is that the goal here? Well, I just want people to understand where I'm coming from. Okay, for what purpose? Just so you're satisfied that they hear your voice? Is whatever potential outcome, let's say it is a continuation of squabbling that diminishes the power of the Trump presidency and any sort of positive things that come with it. Is that worth it? Is that sacrifice and that potential damage to the direction of the country worth it? So you get to voice off on Trump? And some people say yeah, some people no. Well, I have a right to. Yeah, absolutely. Too often we forget to ask ourselves, what is this going to look like in terms of an outcome when I finish? And is that what I'm wanting to happen? Or even leading with, what is it that ultimately my goal is here? What am I wanting the final outcome to be? And then asking, is what I'm doing going to lead to that? All of us in life can benefit from, as my wife's late father used to say, play the tape forward. Benefit from, what is this going to look like if I am successful? And is that what I'm gunning for? Springfield's Talk 1041, I'm Nick Reed. Everyone, we'll chat with you tomorrow morning. Glenn Beck is coming up next. Hope you have a fantastic rest of your day. I'm Nick Reed.